Joining us live now is Peter Mathews, Professor of Political Science at Cypress College in LA. Peter, thanks so much for your time. Omicron is now the dominant COVID strain in the US. On average, the country is reporting 170,000 cases a day. Is it causing anxiety in the lead up to Christmas?
It's a huge development. In fact, on December 22nd, we had 243,000 infections in one day. That's equivalent to what was happening last winter during the surge. The biggest surge, we had 250,000. Now we have 814,000 people died so far, 51 million infected. Yes, people are very stressed. They're very concerned. But on the other hand, some people are just going along business as usual. And that can be a problem if they don't mask up or get their vaccinations. We need to get vaccinations into people's arms really soon.
Absolutely. We just heard how it's causing travel chaos across the country as well. How is the rise in COVID cases impacting communities?
It's impacting quite a bit because right here in Los Angeles County where I live, the new case rate doubled in one day. It doubled the number of infection rate. And we've got people who are now during a holiday break for students. So when they go back to school in about a week and a half, it's going to be very difficult for some of them because they have to wear masks and they should be doing that. It's impacting transportation, people going out. They're certainly concerned about catching COVID in restaurants. And yet there's a group of people that continue to do so. And it is having a major impact. I had a friend of mine, in fact, who could not visit two of his cousins because they actually passed away from COVID. It was very, very tragic.
Very tragic. And so many people are being affected by this disease. How is this going to impact Joe Biden? He pledged to take on coronavirus when he became president of the United States. Is it impacting his popularity?
It certainly has had an impact on his popularity. His numbers had gone down since when he first came into office a year ago, where they were quite high. They've gone down now considerably, and it has to do mainly with COVID and the economy, and what's going on with the economy being depressed because of COVID, the supply chain backups and things like that, where people can't even buy the things that they need at times. So it is having an impact on the president's popularity. But the president says, well, we didn't know Omicron was going to be coming up. But on the other hand, they should have been prepared for a mutation like this, a variant. Because they were warned by doctors and scientists that this could happen, and they should have been ready for it. And we need to get going right now on it and move forward on really getting strict about the controls that we have to get people to be safe once again, at least for the next few weeks to a month or two. They should really do social distancing, masking, getting vaccinations, and getting moving to knock this virus out.
Moving on from COVID, the Pentagon has issued new rules for the military to prevent a rise in extremism. Can you take us through what's changing?
Yes, indeed. In fact, this has become a huge issue now, and the new defense secretary for this made an order that they have to be investigations and screening of potential extremists. And there was also rules that were given to the people in the military, the actual soldiers and sailors, to see whether and to let them know that they cannot take part in extremist activities. They cannot go out, for example, to a racist or a white supremacist march, other kinds of violent-oriented marches. They cannot take part in it. They could be there and observe it, but they cannot actually be part of it. They cannot post insightful type of violence incitement on the internet, on social media. That's also been restricted for them. And this is very important that we weed out any potential insurrectionists in the military, because that would be very dangerous. It could actually end up with something like a civil war and a splitting up of the military itself and insubordination. Don't forget the general in Oklahoma recently who refused to follow President Biden's vaccination requirements for soldiers. He said, I'm not following the president, I'm following the governor of Oklahoma. He's a National Guard general, and that's part of the federal troops as well.
It's interesting that service personnel could be implicated for being involved in acts of terrorism simply through liking something on social media. Has there been any backlash to the new rules?
Well, certainly there are some people who think that's going too far, but this is a matter of national security and the societal safety. You cannot have a democracy functioning well with the rule of law if you have chaos, or if you have a threat of military takeover or insurrection takeover, I should say. You cannot have a proper functioning democracy, which our country has been for most of its history. And we got to bring ourselves back to that by keeping extremism under control, identifying it, and getting rid of it immediately as soon as possible, and dismissing any of those people in the military who have actually shown that they could take part or have taken part, not could, but have taken part in extremist activity.
We are going to hear from former President Donald Trump, expected to hear from Joe Biden on January 6th, the anniversary of the Capitol Hill riots. What can we expect?
Well, probably the very similar positions that both men have taken, and that is that President Trump, was trying to distance himself, saying that he did not incite the riot; those people were on their own. And yet, during the rally before this actual riot occurred, he actually told them, go out there and fight like hell. And he told them that there was a steal in the election and had to be addressed. And so that's kind of, in a sense, some would say that was a type of incitement toward violence. And yet, we also wonder where the president was during those few hours when they said he was watching this on TV. But why wasn't he calling these people off and saying to the National Guard, get in there and stop this from happening? We need security. There are a lot of questions that have to be answered. Now, President Biden, of course, has taken this firm stand, as most Americans have, that this kind of insurrection can never happen again. It should not have happened. We have to do everything in order to stop it so we can have a safe and secure democracy.
Okay, Professor of Political Science at Cypress College, Peter Mathews, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.